Okay, so before I start, can you see the full screen, the first slide?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, first off, thank you very much, Sushil, for this opportunity. I've been looking forward to this conversation to be able to present. And again, I just really thank you for the opportunity. And it's been awesome working with LayerFive, and it's going to be fun to kind of talk about what we've discovered working together over about the last year and a half. So everyone else is tuning in. I am Billy Price. I am the co-founder of a shoe company by the name of BILLY Footwear. And today's presentation, we're going to talk about, the title of it is How Proper Marketing, Attribution, and Smart Planning Helped BILLY Footwear score a 70% increase in sales. And, there's a number of things that go into that. We're going to kind of start off with a bit of a backstory of the brand itself. And then we're going to talk about, how I guess we got in tune with LayerFive, and then how utilizing LayerFive, we've really been able to, hone in on understanding what, what media outlets, I guess social media outlets, and what's working, how to kind of figure out how to make changes to that marketing strategy, and then also get kind of getting insights on how to better to move forward in the future. So here's the cover slide, a lot of content, and it'll be fun to kind of go slide by slide. So Sushil, I think you may want to mute on your end. I think I might be getting some feedback. Okay, perfect. Okay, so here we go. Let's jump right in. First, let's talk about kind of a background of the brand. Again, I'm Billy Price, co-founder of this company, BILLY Footwear. We are a shoe company based out of Seattle, Washington. And it's myself and my fellow co-founder, Darin Donaldson. The two of us kind of had an idea way back when, and to put a zipper in a shoe. And putting a zipper in a shoe is not necessarily original, but the way we did it, it is original. And essentially what it is there's a zipper that goes on the outside of the shoe around the toe, which allows that whole upper of the shoe to fold over so you can actually drop your foot in unobstructed. So it's both an unobstructed entry, but also for someone which is convenient, but also it removes the need to actually have you shove your foot into a shoe. Because traditionally with a regular type of shoe, even if it's Velcro, even if it's like a slip-on with no laces whatsoever, you still need to actually shove your foot into a shoe. So that was our design, that was our idea, and that's what we brought to market. So the question would be like, okay, well, that looks cool, I guess, but why? Why would you approach this? Why would you, what would be the what would be the inspiration behind that type of design? So it's actually kind of rooted from my story. So I'm actually a wheelchair user. I broke my neck when I was a teenager. I was a freshman in college. And unfortunately, when within the first 2 weeks of me being in school, I actually fell out of a 3-story window. And when that happened, a lot of things in my world changed. So it was a head first fall to concrete. I broke my neck, I broke my lower back, and became wheelchair bound. So my level of injury, I'm pretty much paralyzed from the nipple line down, but also I just don't have hand dexterity. I mean, I can move my wrists, I can kind of move my hands, and I can move my fingers, but I actually don't have the dexterity to actually pinch laces. So, I was in the hospital for about 5.5 months, trying to figure out what wheelchair was really going to replace my legs, trying to figure out like how to tackle like daily tasks, like brushing your teeth, writing your name. And then just the other stuff, like we kind of take for granted, I guess, of just getting dressed. And I figured out a lot of things in the hospital. I figured out a lot of things after getting discharged from the hospital. But the one thing that always escaped me was shoes, because the functional solutions that were out there, they just, in my opinion, they didn't look very good. And the last thing I wanted to do was wear something that didn't look good, because I already felt different being a wheelchair user. I didn't want to wear something that I felt like put an exclamation point on the back end of that sentence. So I kind of gave up. So since that time, that was in October 1996, I was having somebody put my shoes on for me for like every single morning. And I'm sure you can imagine that kind of bugged you. I mean, it bugged me. I mean, so it was a matter of trying to figure out a different solution. So Darin and I, longtime friends, grew up together, rode the bus together, played baseball, played, grade school and middle school, high school. And anyway, we were catching up one night and just kind of getting our worlds kind of came back together. And coincidentally, at that time we were catching up, he was working on a shoe project of his own. And when he said that, I was like, well, you know what? I got an idea. And it was just to put a zipper in a shoe. It was putting a zipper in a shoe, have it go around the outside, around the toe. You can fold it over. And I said, I bet if we did that, I could put my foot in that unobstructed. And with my limited hand dexterity, I could grab that zipper and I could zip it up and I could take back that independence. Well, Darin had the people in place to make the prototype. So he did. He made the prototype. And turns out our prototype worked. It looked exactly the way we drew it, but also worked exactly as way we had hoped. And when I put that shoe on, that prototype, I was actually 36. So it was the first time in 18 years that I was able to put my shoes on independently. So I broke my neck at 18. I put my shoes on again at 36. So literally half a lifetime later, I was taking back that independence. And it was one of those deals where it was so special. We kind of looked at each other going, wow, well, that was cool. The question was, where do we go from here? Like, well, we had to share this. And the big thing was, it's like, okay, if we're going to share this thing, we got to go big. We didn't want to be able to, we didn't want to create something that, it gave the thought that you needed to have a disability to qualify yourself to wear the shoe. It's like, well, the shoe market is incredibly competitive. So it's like, okay, if we're going to make this thing work, it wasn't like we were going to advertise this thing. It's like, okay, so if you have a spinal cord injury and you're a C5-6 quadriplegic and you have limited hand dexterity, this is the shoe for you. It's like, well, no, that wasn't going to be the strategy, because it's like, that's very limited in scope. It's like, we want to throw this thing out there. We want to throw it big as net as possible. And we wanted to throw it out there under the banner of universal design, basically taking fashion, function, smash the two together, level the playing field for everybody and make a go of it. So to do that, we needed to be on the shelves of major retailers. So that was our bold mission, to go out there, smash fashion, function, and really bring some inclusivity to the world when it comes to footwear. So there it is. That was the backstory. That was our mission. That was our idea. And we threw it out there to see what happened. Well, the market responded pretty well. So we actually hit the shelves of major retail in August of 2017, where it was back to school. And at that time, we were on the shelves at Nordstrom, and we were also in store with Zappos. And things started to go well. I mean, people started to see the brand, and we started to get some recognition, I guess. We started to have the credibility to move forward as a credible brand. And it was going really good. And then we launched our own e-commerce site in December of 2018. And then we started reaching more of the international market. So it's interesting how this small little idea all of a sudden started to grow, like slowly, but still started to reach far off distances. And one example is, here it is. Here's the global map. So every single one of these countries is a country that has actively reached out to us to buy a pair of our shoes through our own website. So when this thing was first put together, I mean, now we're reaching out to those countries proactively. But at the time when I put this thing together, we had not reached out to any country saying, hey, check out our brand. Customers were finding us. So the question is, like, how do customers find you? I mean, like, we're based out of Seattle, Washington. How does somebody in India find us? How does someone in Russia find us? How does somebody in Australia find us? Well, it's crazy. I mean, when it comes to social media and stuff, you can throw something out there, and if somebody likes it, or someone like has some sort of emotional connection to it, or knows somebody that may need the shoes from the functional level, they're going to share it. So we really approached this our marketing strategy early on as very much more of a grassroots movement, and it really set us up well for the future to make this nice strong foundation, one for kind of a following, but two, to have this foundation that was really built on trying to add value, and people were like really active, like excited about the brand. So this is kind of a snapshot of where people are reaching out for, but it really begs the question, like, well, how big is the market? I mean, because the shoe business is incredibly competitive. And as we started to keep growing, what we were finding was our name kept on coming up in conversation with on more of like the functional. So someone that needed a shoe, like maybe they'd be wearing like an orthotic brace or has some sort of paralysis, or like myself, or maybe someone's on the spectrum or something like that. There were so many success stories that were floating around, and they were talking about the Billy brand, Billy shoes. And, just parents were just really excited about it for their kids. So when we start looking at the actual market itself, here's some numbers. These numbers right here, when you look at the actual global market, just when it comes to adaptive, like accessibility, these numbers on the screen, these numbers are so big that I really can't wrap my arms around it. I don't have an understanding of what a $392 billion market is, but that's what it says what the adaptive market is for globally. And then you break that down, the global shoe market is to like 270 billion. The US shoe market, now this is like not just adaptive, but this is just in general. When it comes to shoes, it's a $92 billion business. And then if you focus on just adaptive in the US, this is 54 billion. But then the part that I can start to wrap my arms around is when you talk about the US adaptive shoe market being a $10 billion business, like that's still a crazy number. But if you think about it in terms of like a percentage, like having a market share, having a sliver of that 10 billion, if you break that down to 1%, 1% of a $10 billion business, all of a sudden that's $100 million of business. It's $100 million of revenue. And it's like, wow, that's still a crazy big number. But it starts to be a number you can understand. So, and again, this is just the adaptive side, the power in our brand of which really what we want to go into market. We didn't want to be the quote adaptive brand. Yes, we have many success stories that are rooted in adaptive, and our brand typically gets, talked about in that space because one, me being a wheelchair user, I was using it. I was approaching it from the need, like me having a disability, needing a functional solution. But there's just as many success stories, maybe they're not talked about as much, of just your regular kid that just loves the shoes. Or, I've got a 3-year-old, he doesn't have any disability. I can tell you as a parent, being able to get that kid into a toddler pair of high tops that he can put on independently, and we can get him out the door faster. That's really a check in the win column for the entire family to be able to move forward. So anyway, I say all that like that. That's kind of the market share, like more on the adaptive side. But if you start looking at the over universal design, the market's much bigger, which is really exciting. So how do you move forward with that? Well, we start teaming with amazing partners. So here's kind of a snapshot of some of the retail partners that we're working with. I mentioned when we first went into the marketplace, we were on the shelves of both Nordstrom and Zappos. They've both been incredible partners. There's a lot more retail partners that we work with that are not on this list. I don't know how many retail partners we have now, but it's got to be up to around 200 or so now, both domestic and abroad. But some of these icons up here are really big ones. QVC, they've been incredible to work with. And then also Target. Target was one that we were able to launch with earlier this year. Target, it was really tough to get into Target because they drive such a crazy, aggressive price point. But by changing the design a little bit and kind of simplifying the design, we were able to meet their price point and move forward. So that was pretty exciting. But then also some of the clearance channels. Nordstrom Rack, that's something we all know, as well as Zulily. 6 p.m. is kind of the Nordstrom Rack when it comes to Zappos. 6 p.m. is associated with Zappos. But I mentioned how our brand, yes, it's universal design, so it can be on the shelves of like the mainstream markets, but more on the functional side. It's been awesome working with clinics. There's a lot of orthotic clinics out there that carry our shoes just because they've seen a lot of success with their patients that utilize orthotic braces. And then there's just a ton of different independent retailers, both in the United States and abroad too, that we're working with. So that's more on the retail partner side. And then when it comes to more like getting some attention, these are all just some great, it's kind of a snapshot of some great media outlets that we've been featured in. That big one smack in the middle, that's Footwear News. So Footwear News, I guess I would kind of attribute them as more like the Bible when it comes to, the footwear industry. People like really take a look at the Footwear News magazine, seeing what's trending, see what's coming in the future. We've been very, very fortunate to be featured in 3 footwear news articles. And the last one that we were in, they were really calling us as, I guess, kind of a leader in in the inclusive space. And a lot of those data points that we're talking about earlier with, the multi-billion-dollar adaptive market and stuff, a lot of that content was referenced. Those exact same figures were referenced in Footwear News, that last article that we were in. So anyway, this is kind of a snapshot to, I guess, kind of bragging. I mean, I'm not a bragger, but it's fun to talk about these various outlets because they've been very generous. So what that all does, I mean, all that stuff we're really talking about, like these relationships and working with these retail partners and working with these like media outlets, and then being able to do stuff with Facebook and Instagram, we'll get the brand out there. What it really boils down to is our marketing strategy. So our marketing strategy definitely, I wouldn't say is it's mature. I wasn't going to say it's changed. It's more mature as we've gone. So when we first started, it was really the only social outlets that we had was really Facebook and Instagram. And I guess we had YouTube, but I mean, our YouTube channel is still very much on the grow. But a lot of the early success, early recognizing of the brand, it really came from Facebook and throwing a post out there of various like the shoe styles that we had, talking about success stories of other customers, but then and also doing lots of giveaways just to be able to try to build up that audience, like generate momentum. So as we continue to go, our email marketing list continued to grow as well. So direct email marketing. And then also next down there is like Swell and Yotpo. That's more having something on our website that empowers the end user to be able to leave comments, leave reviews to the product. That's on the Yotpo side. And then Swell is the reward points. So essentially every time you make a purchase, the customer is able to get rewards, or they're able to get reward points from following on through your social channels or leaving a review, that kind of stuff. It really drives engagement to the site, better understanding of the brand, better understanding of the product. And as they there's incentive with the points. So then they cash in their points for the next product. So it really has been working well. We talked about some of the media plugs like Footwear News and whatnot in that big list. And then also the retail partners too. We've done a lot of collaborations with those retail partners where it comes to like doing pop-ups in store, just to be able to bring people into those stores. One, to be able to generate sales within those stores, because we want the retail partners to succeed. We want them to succeed because it's a wholesale business. That whole channel, we want that to be very, very successful. And then on the e-commerce side, going direct to customer, that's more gravy. So also a lot of brand ambassadors as those customers, repeat customers. There's definitely going to be some ones that rise to the top that just absolutely love the brand or whatever. We've got a number of awesome brand ambassadors that help us out. Billy Cares, that's kind of a sub channel within Billy Footwear. It's more of a speaking engagement, more of an educational side, where it's talking about entrepreneurship, talking about like overcoming and just really talking about like, I guess, entrepreneurship really. And then last thing on here is Google Ads. And this is something I'm really gonna be touching on as we go forward later in the presentation. Okay, so before I start jumping into the LayerFive part, I just wanted to kind of set the stage of where we started, and then I guess more on the maturing of how we've leveraged these sources. So this is a fun slide. This one talks about just YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. So you can see our Instagram channel. It's grown, like right now we're 18.6 thousand followers. I'll tell you what, like when we first started, it took so much work just to get 500 followers. I mean, man, oh my gosh, it took a lot of work. And then to go from 500 to 1,000, that took a lot of work. And then 1,000 to 10,000. 10,000, that was a really big moment in time. But then actually, as your audience keeps growing, all of a sudden it seems to get like into this kind of perpetual motion, keeps growing and growing and growing. So the amount of time it took us to get to 500, it took a while. And then from 500 to 1,000, that took a while. Then to 5,000, 10,000, it just took a tremendous amount of work. Well, we hit 10,000 earlier this year, and now we've just been rolling. So there's a lot of ways, a lot of strategies that you can boost followers within Instagram. But we really took the slower approach, I guess, like really taking the time trying to build that relationship, because they're real followers. They're really real people being engaged. And it just feels like, one, is a brand, we actually care for those followers. And then vice versa, it seems like the followers really care for the brand. With Facebook, we just crossed the 20,000 likes thresholds. That was exciting. And part of the reason that we started getting a strong foundation is because of that image on the right, that post. So this post was put together in September of 2000. It was September 2018. There was a mom that went into a Nordstrom at the Mall of America, and she just had an amazing experience. She went in there to buy shoes for her daughter. Her daughter has braces, and she went home and she talked about this special experience. And she basically said, "Moms, there's a shoe out there that makes it way easier for your child to be able to get their shoes on." And it was the type of post I'd seen many, many times before. Not that specific post, but just like what the content, what it carried. And but for whatever reason, this one got legs. And within 3 days' time, this post was shared 280,000 times. And it was crazy. We looked at the Google Analytics of how many people were reaching out to us on our website. And pretty much the entire planet it was colored. It was colored, meaning like there was some sort of traffic coming from that site. I'd say the only place that wasn't blue or whatever the color was, it was like in the middle of Africa and Antarctica. It was just absolutely mind-blowing how many people are reaching out from so many different places. So that really set the stage for the brand to really kind of step into the light. And one of the things that doesn't get talked about very much was at that time, our brand was very much a side hustle. It was Darin and myself were working full time on on our own day jobs, and this was just something we're working on the side. Now that post really set the stage for a lot more engagement to the site, and us to then responsibly leave our day jobs and then start doing this full time. I mean, I guess we're already doing it full time because we do our day jobs 8 to 5, and then I work on shoes from like 9 till midnight and the weekends. But this, like, just all of a sudden, there just wasn't enough bandwidth for anything else. It was just 100% shoes. So I bring up this slide because of like 2 reasons. One is it really illustrates kind of the grassroots way that we were approaching marketing early on. We were just throwing anything out there, trying to, find customers, and not even customers, but like just people that would be engaged in the brand, trying to build this relationship. There really wasn't too much of a plan on how to execute. We were just throwing as much stuff at the wall just to see what would stick. And it was effective. It was great, but it wasn't necessarily a very long, as we matured, I guess, and I started understanding more about like marketing strategy. It really wasn't a sustainable model because it was just all over the place. I mean, we're from Seattle, and one of the things I was thinking about last night is I remember years ago for the New Year's Eve party, like every New Year's Eve, the Space Needle in Seattle, they light it up with fireworks and it blows off. And it's just like this amazing spectacle. It looks amazing. It looks great. Well, there was one year where there wasn't really any like control over the main system. And they were just out there like pulling levers just to make things go. And you'd watch the fireworks show and you look at it and there'd be like boo here and boo here. Fireworks are going off. It looked nice, but there was no rhyme or reason. It was just kind of going all over the place. And you weren't really sure like what was happening next or what the outcome was going to be. So I kind of thought about that and thinking like that's how our marketing strategy was early on. We were just like shooting off fireworks wherever we could without really too much of a plan. And then you start getting teamed with the right people. You can make that plan and you can strategize and you can be a lot more effective. But before we got to LayerFive, there were a lot of people reaching out. Saying, you know what, you can turn your Facebook ROI. I can flip that thing around and like, okay, like this are your results right now. But if you work with our services, we'll triple it. And we really, I bought into it. So we started working with a lot of these external agencies where we'd give them money and we would shoot posts, and then the results that were being shown, it was showing that we were getting, I don't know, just like a huge ROI and a huge results and all these just amazing things. And it's like, well, that's what the data is showing, but I can tell you that our team on this end, on the fulfillment side, it doesn't necessarily look like we're actually getting more conversions. I can see all the numbers that are justifying and saying that this advertisement, was the reason this conversion happened. But what we found was it didn't really seem like our actual number of conversions, our number of orders going out the door matched what was being said. So about that same time, that's when I got connected with Sushil, with LayerFive. And I mean, I'm gonna start off and I'm be really honest here. I mean, I can be a very stubborn, kind of bullheaded kind of guy. And what Sushil was telling me, it wasn't matching what the rest of what these ad agencies were saying, because and it really just bursted my bubble. And that's what I'm talking about, that first bullet right there. The first point, how did LayerFive help us? They help by bursting my bubble, like going out there and saying like, look, this ad agency is not reporting correctly. What's happening is like the results of this thing, it's like they're all claiming ownership of that last click or even the first click, and they're claiming like what that the claim of responsibility for that conversion on your site. So what we found was when we started looking at all these different, social media platforms that we were giving money to get results, they were all taking ownership. They were all like claiming responsibility for that conversion. And there was just a lot of double dipping. So that really burst my bubble. And so now, thank you, Sushil. But at the time I was like, man, I don't know what LayerFive is telling me. This is like really just weird. But now looking at it through, like the blinders got removed, and it was incredible. It truly was incredible to really all of a sudden be able to team with somebody and have like visibility of actually how effective your ad spend is. And then in addition to that, I didn't see the value in Google Ads. So Google Ad, because you work at it, you get your organic like to the kind of very, very top. And it just didn't make sense to me to like throw like money at Google Ads to be able to get myself already at the top, because we're already at the top. Well, again, my bubble got bursted. And again, I was like just kind of educated on how powerful Google Ads can be. And initially when we started doing it, we started doing brand terms where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to put money on like BILLY Footwear. I'm going to put money on BILLY Shoes. Well, then what we found was it's like, well, that doesn't really make sense, because if somebody's reaching out, like looking for BILLY Footwear on Google, they're already actively looking for it. So I don't need to necessarily pay for that Google for me to like find myself. So we need to go after audience where it's like they don't know about the brand, but they're looking for, they have a problem or some sort of like, desire to find a convenient shoe, or they're looking for easy shoes for my child to put on, or they're looking for, I wear an orthotic brace, what's compatible, like those type of words, that type of language. Like that's perfect. And when through our own organic, we weren't getting those results. So Google Ads really helped us there. So those are the first two, bursting my bubble and then kind of an understanding of Google Ads. And then nextly, this one kind of flows into our overall strategy when it comes to Google shopping. I mean, so we go to Google, there's that top carousel that goes right along there. Our shoes were up there, some of which were organic. They kind of drilled down, you can see it. But a lot of our retail partners were up there too. And we tried to kind of put money at that and like kind of move our like BillyFootwear.com right to the very, very front. And what we found was we just asked the question, like, what are we doing? It's like, because we want to support our retail partners. And what we're finding was we were like, we were being in there, edging out our retail partners. So we were basically cannibalizing ourselves. Like by we spending ad dollars to get BillyFootwear.com in front of like Zappos or in front of Nordstrom, where we're also working with them to work on their ad spend to get sales. It just didn't make sense. So that's really when we expanded our strategy, and our strategy was more focusing just on the non-brand terms and leaving the retail partners to focus on the brand terms. So we didn't get there immediately, but over time, as we continue to refine kind of our strategy, and that was more just like looking at the various insights of like understanding like what's being effective, what's not being effective, like make an adjustment, and then try it out and see what happens. So another part that, so I talked about Google Shopping, expanding strategy, and then with insights here, we have visibility now with LayerFive. We have visibility to where all of our traffic is coming. So we get a lot of traffic through Google, we get a lot of traffic through Facebook, through Instagram, through YouTube, but there's a bunch of other channels too. We got Bing, we got Yahoo, you got DuckDuckGo. I mean, like there's all these different ones that are like TikTok and Sezzle. I mean, there's all these different places that we're not putting any money to at all, but we're getting traffic. So what happens is you can look at it, you can objectively say, is that channel something we want to boost? So do we want to build that up? Do we want to So for example, Bing, we have ad dollars with Google Ads, but we're not really paying attention to Bing at the moment. It would make sense for us to start addressing Bing because there is definitely a valid amount of traffic coming through that channel. That's visibility that if we weren't working with LayerFive, we wouldn't necessarily see that. If we went directly to Bing, it'd be like, well, I mean, there's got to be traffic coming here anyways. It'd just be more just guessing, just blindly shooting out there, of which we were doing early on before LayerFive, but now having that visibility is very helpful. And then the last thing here that LayerFive has really helped us with is the privacy compliance. We're a small business. We don't necessarily need to be follow all of those compliance rules. However, we're a brand very much on the grow. So it's awesome to be ahead of the curve with all the compliance. But in addition, it's all being a brand about relationship. We want to be a transparent brand, and we want to be a brand that has integrity. So having that privacy on the front end, it's great because it makes the customer feel better knowing that their data is, one, protected, but two, that they have access to their data and have the ability to delete it if they need to. So there's a lot of words on that slide, but that's kind of setting the stage of how LayerFive has helped us. So before I pass it over to Sushil, there is one more slide here. And this is looking over it's looking over the last year and a half of which BILLY Footwear has been working with LayerFive. And the top row right there, there's really two scenarios here. That top row right there, we're looking at the year over year, the revenue. And just look, this is really two snapshots in time. One is of August of 2020, and second is August of 21. So when we first started, we were just kind of throwing everything at the wall and seeing what would stick. So, and it was also a matter of all right, well, what is our ad spend? So how much money should we pay for that? So from where we first started in August, compared to what our strategy now is in August of 21, what you can see on this chart is we increased our ad spend. Our ad spend went up by 41%. And by refining by getting more mature in how we approach it, by increasing the ad spend 41%, our ad revenue, the revenue coming in from those ads, it skyrocketed. It went up 340%. I mean, that's a big increase. And what that does is then your return on that ad spend increases as well. The actual cost per acquisition of each of those conversions goes down because you've gotten better at what you're doing. And then our total orders, of course, went up. And then, of course, just the overall online revenue goes up too. So that's just a snapshot in August of 2020 and a snapshot of 21 of, just basically comparing what we were doing, wise strategy, and increasing our ad spend, and then just seeing the results from that performance. But the second row is more of talking about all the sales. So typically a sales in a high season of traffic. And the high season of traffic is typically August, which is back to school. And that bleeds over to September. And then it's also November, because November is holiday. I mean, right now, everybody went bonkers for Black Friday and, Cyber Monday, and even anytime just going up to Thanksgiving, there's just a lot of buzz in the air. So the wild thing about it is, if you look at this chart here, the amount of money that we spent during those specific times last year, as compared to this year, we only spent 7% more. But you can see that our performance went way up. And it really indicates a couple things. One is we become better at what we're doing, understanding that, our ads within Facebook, this one wasn't hitting last year, but now let's do it differently this year, and let's hit it with the appropriate ad budget to make it the most efficient. But it's also, understanding that, direct email marketing has been very effective. So it's let's focus more. Let's pay a lot of attention on direct email marketing, and then also just really honing in what the proper Google search terms are. So I really like this slide because it's the top one really talks about okay, we need to throw more money in advertising, which is always kind of a black box. You're well, am I actually going to get what I'm hoping I'm going to get out of this thing? So that was more of the learning, I guess, to get our strategy in place. And then The second one is just more of like now a more matured model, knowing exactly when to throw ad dollars, where to throw ad dollars, and how best to refine your campaigns. So there it is. So I'm going to throw this to Sushil now, and he can start filling in the blanks and some other stuff.
Well, thanks a lot, Billy. This was amazing to hear how the insights about your business and your marketing strategy, and how you have got this great omni-channel marketing strategy that has been doing wonders for you. It's hard to follow that really engrossing story, but I'm gonna just talk a little bit about from the in general for the e-commerce marketers out there, what they are facing and what in what way they should be thinking about their marketing strategy. So it's very obvious to everyone that it's challenging to generate growth. And the reason being that the marketing is time consuming, advertising is very expensive, and it is continuing to get expensive. And just measuring performance about what's working, what's not working is extremely hard to understand, as Billy was saying earlier in his case. So, and by the way, if you move to the next slide, Billy. The other way, yep. And by the way, there is an explosion of the marketing channels, the devices, different publishers, and because of that, it's really hard to understand what's driving your customers' engagement and what's driving sales. Is it Google? Is it Facebook, Snap, Pinterest? Is it your SEO strategies, your email strategies, SMS? Influencers or affiliates? What exactly is driving that growth? What's driving that customer engagement? And as Billy was saying earlier, the strategy cannot be just on the Facebook advertising or Google advertising. It has to be multifaceted in this current world. So, so because of that, if you can get to the next slide, Billy, there are some of the key questions that every executive out there in e-commerce, retail, or any other business, as well as every marketer has. And that is that, am I getting the real return on my marketing budget? And it's amazing that when you talk to marketers, they readily admit that anywhere between 25 to 40% of their media budget is getting wasted. And just to put that number in perspective, the digital ad spending is estimated to reach around $455 billion by the end of this year. And if you even take 25% of that, that's more than $100 billion that marketers and advertisers are wasting in terms of their ad spend, because they just don't know whether they are getting a real return or not. Now, just to put that in perspective, that's basically that money is going into Facebook's and Google's and other ad platforms of the world. It's improving their ROAS and their CPAs, but it's not definitely, as a marketer or as a retailer, it's not increasing your ROAS or your CPA, or it's not improving your CPA. So the other question that everyone has is that, do I have a single source of truth? With the explosion of the devices and channels and having so many different platforms that are reporting performance or data back to you, every marketer out there and every executive thinks about it that, well, what is the truth? What's my single source of truth? Do I have a unified place where I'm consolidating all the data, I'm making it accessible to everyone across my organization, and everyone is working off of the same data and knows the truth? And that's one big challenge that everyone is facing today. And then the third one is that, do I know my customers well enough? Now, if you think about it, just a very small percentage of individuals who came to your website turned into customers. And even those customers who are, again, they are visiting your websites again, they are interacting with your business again into various channels. And the question becomes that, do you as a marketer understand your customers well enough so that you can understand that what their next needs are, and you are able to improve their experience with your business? So with that, there are a few things that sorry, yeah, you can go ahead. So when it comes to understanding the performance, and when we talk as LayerFive, when we are talking to various e-commerce brands out there, what we understand is that here are some of the typical ways that e-commerce marketers today are trying to manage their growth and manage the performance reporting of their growth. So number one is that they're relying on their ad platform performance reports. So these are the reports that you get from either Google, Facebook, or whatever ad platforms you might be using, or that are on top of these other ad platforms as well. And the problem with relying on the ad platforms reports is that one is that you only get the single channel view of your performance. So Facebook is going to report the best performance you got out of Facebook, but they don't know if your consumer has also visited you from Google Ads or from your email platform as well. And that might have been the main reason why that consumer converted. But just because that particular consumer may have seen an ad on Facebook or may have clicked an ad on Facebook, Facebook is going to claim full credit for that. So because they don't have visibility into your other channels. And the other more obvious problem is with this one is that there is a conflict of interest. You're asking basically the fox to tend the chicken coop. Basically, you are asking the company or the platform that you are giving money, and you are then asking that, tell me how that money did for me. And as you can see, there is a clear conflict of interest. It's very hard for somebody who's taking your money to say, well, your money did not do that well. Then the second group of marketers currently, they rely on Google Analytics. There are two versions of Google Analytics, a free version that most of the 99% of the marketers and e-commerce companies are using. And then there is a paid version of Google Analytics, that GA360. And some of the e-commerce companies are using Google GA360 as well. By the way, GA360 costs at a minimum $150,000 a year. And then it costs even more to get that software implemented and make it workable or make it meaningful for you. Now, the problem with both of these versions of Google Analytics is that one is that you can get great insights into your web analytics, but they're not meant to give you a good, like true insights into your advertising analytics. So it takes custom effort to get even partially correct insights out of GA, whether it's free version or the paid version. There are the third category of marketers who rely on agencies because most of the companies out there that we interact with, they have got some agency or more than one agency to deal with their social media campaigns and Google campaigns, etc. And in this case, they rely on agency reports to understand the performance. Now, the problem there is that agencies themselves rely on the ad platforms reports or the Google Analytics reports to provide you the performance. Now, if those reports itself are not accurate, then the agency reports turn out to be not accurate either. And then there is another problem there as well, that agencies most of the time get paid for performance. And these reports generally that are coming out of ad platforms, etc., those are going to over-report or those are reporting your performance in a better light. So that works for many of the agencies as well to show that they are working out, they are performing well for you. And then the other problem besides these reporting is getting the real consumer insights. And currently, most of the e-commerce vendors that we talk to, they are dependent on their e-commerce platforms like Shopify, Magento, etc., to get their customers' insight. Now, the problem with that is that only about 2 to 6% of your visitors end up with a transaction. So the insight that you are getting out of your e-commerce platforms is only for those 2 to 6% of visitors, and the other 94 to 98% of your visitors, you have either no insight who those visitors are, or you have very partial insight on those visitors. And that becomes a challenge because then if that 94 to 98% of the visitors have come to your website, they have already showed an intent and they have already responded either to your advertising or to your social media posts, or some form of other awareness, and they have come to your website, but they have not converted. Now, wouldn't it be great that instead of continuing to try to find new and new consumers, those who have actually come to your website figure out that what are the reasons why they are not converting, and get those to convert more. And there your e-commerce platform cannot help. So if you can, Billy, if you can go to the next slide. So there are a couple of more issues here. I know I'm kind of piling onto issues, but just to kind of set the stage of where the state of marketing is today. The other challenge that is happening currently is that marketing is transitioning into a new normal. And the very key ingredients of marketing are getting impacted currently because of some of the technology changes as well as regulatory changes. So a typical marketing is all about getting the right message or the right creative to the right audience at the right time with the right budget or at the right price, and having the ability to accurately measure that, yes, you got the right message to the right audience at the right budget. Now, the problem is that there are technology changes going on in the industry because a lot of this marketing depends today on something called third-party cookies, which are really privacy invasive. The way to think about is that, let's say if you went into Macy's store and some company was snooping in on you going into Macy's store, and they immediately broadcasted that to let's say to Nordstrom and to Kohl's and to others that, well, here is this individual who just went to Macy's store, so he's looking for something you might be interested in, now showing an ad to this guy. That's the equivalent of third-party cookies, that if you went onto one website, that website broadcasts to everybody else that, yes, you just visited this website. That particular and that actually powers a lot of marketing and advertising today. That is going away because of the tech changes as well as because of the regulatory pressures. The data privacy is starting to take center stage. Apple has taken a lot of actions around that, so their browsers are actually right now more secure, as well as in the mobile side, some iOS 14 and 15, which are the latest iOS for the iPhones, those have got updates that also makes it very difficult to track those audiences as well as to accurately measure performance. What all this means is that currently in today's world, it was already difficult to get marketing and advertising working. It was already getting more expensive and more time consuming to get it working. It was already a problem to get the right performance measurement done. And these things are getting more and more difficult because of the technology and regulatory changes that are coming in for the good of the consumers. So if you get to the next slide, Willie, here is our recommendation for the solution for the new normal. Number one is that know your consumers. You need to get technology that helps you know not just those 2 to 6% of the consumers, but helps you understand the full 100% of the consumers that are interacting with you. And some of the strategies there becomes important. That do you have a solution that can resolve identities of the individuals who come in onto your website as against to your other data sources like your consumer, like your e-commerce platforms, your customer service platform, your loyalty platforms, etc., and can get you that 360-degree view of the consumer with the full journey insight, so that you know that if somebody has come in, they started their journey, let's say from Facebook ads, but then they have actually converted through an email that you sent out later on. And by the way, that also starts to give you insight into that maybe collecting the email when somebody lands on your website by giving some kind of promotion might be a good idea, because if you start to see that makes conversions better. So that's one recommendation from our end, from LayerFive's end, that make an effort to know your consumers, it's going to be extremely important getting into this new normal of privacy compliance, where the third-party cookies will go away. Your advertising is going to be more and more dependent on the data that you own rather than the data that somebody else owns. And then getting that single source of truth. Like we said earlier, there is an explosion of channels and devices, and your marketing strategy is not on a single channel. Like Billy said, his marketing strategy started from the really Facebook organic and Instagram organic channels, and then expanded from there into pretty much touching all the modern channels. So you need to have a solution that gives you that full view across all the channels and attributes your conversions, your orders across all media channels and it gives you the end-to-end accountability. So if you, let's say, got 100 orders for the day in your e-commerce platform, can you say with confidence that you understand where those 100 orders have come from, which channels truly attributed into each one of those orders? So that's our second recommendation. Get to that accountability and get to that single source of truth. And once you get there, you will find that you are able to get a lot of actionable insights that can feed into your planning and your strategy. And while doing that, all of this, keep privacy in mind, as the world is gonna be will start to. The way I think about is that right now you can think of it as a wild west of the internet age that we have been, and slowly some of these things that wild west is gonna start to have a little bit more structure, and that's where some of the privacy compliance will start to take center stage. It's good for your business as well. If you are, that shows, because if you are privacy compliant, if you're taking care of that, that shows that you care about your consumers and their experience, and that pays off in your marketing ROI as well. With that, I'm gonna turn back to Billy for closing comments.
Yeah, Sushil, well, thank you for that. You know, going through all those slides, Sushil, that you were working on, and I mean, part of the presentation earlier that I was touching on, you know, it's all about, when we're talking about the marketing strategy, getting out there and being able to connect with the customer. It's really about trying to, there's a lot of dialogue in there talking about making those conversions, being able to get the revenue coming in to support the business. And, you know, when I look at the mission statement of our business, it's like, yes, we want to be a brand of success, but it's more than that, right? We want to be a brand of significance. And really our mission in that's just our core value is adding value. And we want to do everything we can to try to add value and really try to make a measurable difference in the world one foot at a time. And, you know, when we look about, when you look at those last recommendations you're talking about, know your consumer. It's like, yeah, I mean, we want to know our consumer, not just to be able to provide them a service, but we want to know them so we know how to add value to their world. We want to be able, if someone's coming to our site and all of a sudden they bounce, why did they bounce? Is it because they couldn't find something they're looking for? Did they not have the right size? Is there something about the website that could be more efficient? Those are the type of insights that are just really, really valuable, that one needs to know about their customer. Just really trying to understand what they need so we as a brand can better serve them. And then also, of course, the compliance and the privacy and everything. But I really look, when I look at LayerFive, and Sushil, I really thank you for being able to work with you for the last year and a half. It's really like, yes, we're trying to strategize on marketing and stuff like that, but it's really trying to better us as a brand of service for a customer that is looking for something. And it may be looking for something fashionable, or maybe someone looking for something functional, but whatever the case, they're looking for something. And really teamed with that single truth, knowing what's working and what's not working, and knowing how we can make some sort of pivot to be able to make it more efficient. It's really been awesome. So everyone out there, I really thank you guys for tuning in today. It's been great. I hope you picked up on some of this stuff. So there it is.
Thanks a lot, Billy.
Do we have time for some questions?
I think we have maybe 3-4 more minutes for some questions. So let's see if there are any questions. We'll open it for that. So if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand, and we'll give you a mic